Anyway, speaking of the vaccines, there's a bit more of an extended exchange on that issue. I think this is the one. Yeah, let's take a look here. Like I said, I'm honestly shocked that Trump even agreed to sit down with Megyn Kelly.
Yeah.
That was on the vaccines. They were rushed through. They have helped, but also hurt a lot of people. And your White House actually supported mask mandates. So wouldn't you like a do-over on any of that?
Look, when this came in, nobody knew what the hell it was. It sounded like an ancient, pandemic. You thought that was from 200 years ago or from 19.
Also, like, okay, first of all, why the fuck did no one pull focus on your goddamn camera lens before shooting the former president of the United States? How is this entire interview out of focus on Trump? Second off, he's actually 100% right. And like when people criticize the way the government responded to COVID and the lockdowns and the mask mandates, like it's so easy to sit here in retrospect and be like, this was bad and that was bad. But Trump is 100% right. And I honestly don't blame anyone in leadership that was like, fuck, we need to do a mask mandate or like lockdown. Like what else was going to happen, right? Because as a leader, as an elected official, either it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. Either you take it seriously, institute a mask mandate, and do lockdowns and save lives in the process, but then you're going to get accused of ruining people's small businesses and ruining people's livelihoods and their ability to go to work and make money, et cetera, et cetera. Or you ignore it, let commerce continue to flow, let the economy stay alive, and then you get accused of facilitating a goddamn genocide and unleashing a pandemic onto the most vulnerable people among us. Either way, you're fucked. And yeah, we didn't know what COVID was at the beginning. We didn't know the long-term implications of it, how deadly it was going to be, or how contagious it was going to be. So I really don't blame, people in power that made the decisions about mask mandates and lockdowns at the time. I really genuinely think most of them were just trying to protect people. Now, obviously, ulterior motives came into play and profit-based incentives, yada, yada, yada. But at the beginning, yeah, I think that a lot of people were just genuinely trying to protect the Americans from a goddamn pandemic, the likes of which we haven't seen as a country since like 1918.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And it's funny because you're so accustomed to Donald Trump making terrible points that when he kind of just like leans into it, like, or when he just kind of like leans into being honest and in upfront with the American people, he kind of does get back to the like kind of common sense bluntness that I think was a big part of what helped him distinguish himself in the 2016 Republican primary, which we have to remember was extremely crowded with a bunch of people that were all saying the same kind of drivel of the Republican Party. But when he just confronts people like this, like I said, I don't like to give Donald Trump flowers, but this is exactly how you have to fucking react to this, because he's like, nobody knew what was going on. He said a pandemic's coming. I said, what the fuck do you mean? This is 2020. What do you mean there's a pandemic coming? I don't, what are you talking about? Absolutely. And re-election's coming up. I don't want to think about that. We're not having a pandemic. That's what I'm thinking. We're not having a pandemic. We're having the best time of our lives. This is a great economy. That's what I'm thinking. Well, he fucked himself. He shot himself. He shot the bet on that one, but at least he's honest and saying like, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. And, we made the wrong call.
1917, we never thought you'd have a pandemic. Nobody had any idea. We got word that bad things were happening in China right around the Wuhan clinic. And I was the one that said it was in the Wuhan clinic. And, I stuck with it. And it was absolutely, it came out of the Wuhan clinic. But you take a look, and what we did was, this was brand new. Nobody knew what the hell it was. There's dust. Somebody said there's dust coming in from China, and it's killing people in Italy, and it's killing people in France, and it's going to kill people here. And by the way, I shut it down to China. That was a big move. I saved thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives by doing it. But honestly, I don't blame a lot of people because nobody knew what it was. Now we do understand it somewhat. Nobody really understands it even now fully. But nobody knew what COVID was. And it wasn't even a name. I called it the China virus. I still do. I call it the China virus. It came out of China. They call it COVID and COVID-19. As far as the vaccine's concerned, you had the original COVID. And the vaccine had an impact on that. And there are some people, I will tell you, some friends of mine that are Democrat, I think they voted for me, but they're Democrat, very smart people, top people. They say, I don't understand one thing. Why don't you talk more about the vaccine? It was one of the greatest things you've ever done. Now think of that. They say to me, and I say, I'm not going to talk about it one way or the other. First of all, no mandates. I don't want mandates. I never had mandates. Florida sort of had a mandate because they were giving the vaccine. They were demanding everybody take the vaccine. It's another thing. But no mandates, no anything. I didn't demand anybody take it. But I have people on the other side. Not my side, although probably there's some on my side too. They said, you saved 100 million people because I got it done in 9 months as opposed to 5 years to 12 years. A lot of people.
You're proud of it.
No, I'm not proud of it. I'm saying what Democrats think. Democrats.
I get it. I mean, and I'm not
I'm
somebody who denies some of the good
Yeah,
that the vaccines did. I lived through that too. But
Yeah.
of course, a lot of people have been vaccine injured. And that's
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So, are
We're
we
about
good?
to get demonetized.
Are we good?
Oh, I was making a joke because she said vaccine injured and then you paused it. And I was
Oh.
like, uh-oh, it's the demonetization.
No, I thought my internet was like something was happening. It's all good. Yeah, and actually, to be honest, this is a rare instance where Trump is like not just owning what he did and being proud of it. Usually you see Trump being like she's kind of this is weird. Usually you see Trump like totally taking control of a conversation. In this instance, Megan's like kind of making him hesitate. She's making him kind of like backtrack and speak outside of both sides of his mouth. And he's like, well, on one hand, people are saying all this great stuff about my vaccine. And she's like, so are you proud of it? And he's like, well, I wouldn't say I'm proud of it. It's like, dude, just say you're proud of it. Just change the narrative. You are Donald Trump. Very few people in the Republican Party have that ability to just make a decree and change the narrative. But you can do that, bro. You can do that. You're not going to lose the primary if you say, yes, I'm proud of the vaccine. And no, I'm not going to give in to whatever Ron DeSantis and his band of lunatics are saying about me and my vaccine. Of course I'm not. Of course I'm proud of it. That's what the Donald Trump I know would do. I'm kind of shocked that he's actually cowering to the pressure of Megyn Kelly and of the anti-vax Republicans, of which there are many. I get it. There is a lot of them. So he definitely feels that pressure to cower and to, play to the anti-vax crowd. But I honestly think it would be more politically savvy if he just owned what he did and, didn't necessarily lean into it constantly. But in an instance like this, no, I don't think he should kind of do this weird backtracking. It makes him look weak and it makes it look like he's giving in to a faction of his base, not because he agrees with them, but just because they're very enthusiastic about their position.
Yeah, I think it's definitely calculated, right? I think that Donald Trump knows that his only competition left in the primary is Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis has made it entirely about the vaccine, which I don't think is a particularly good decision. But when he's up against it, I don't think he wants to give a soundbite to the DeSantis campaign that they can use to campaign against him. And again, I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I think he should come out and say that he's proud of the fucking vaccine. That he said he saved 100 million lives. And be proud of that. Why are you not proud of that? If you're not proud of that, like, how could you not be? If you agree that this was a good thing and that it saved 100 million lives, that's not a source of pride for you. So that sounds mealy mouthed and bullshit, completely. But I think it's just him. I think it's his calculation or his campaign's calculation that this is an issue that he doesn't want to touch.
Right. Very weird, though. Like I said, not used to seeing Donald Trump kind of back down like that. Very unexpected. What?
Also, bad take, Drew. Don't let the rich people have all the caviar. The proletariat deserves caviar too. It's actually really fucking good. Don't hate on the caviar. The sturgeon is a beautiful fish. It's a magnificent fish, and its roe are expensive but delicious. And don't, again, champagne for all, not champagne for none. Drew, come on.
It's one of the questions. Those people are mad that they were rushed through and that they can't sue.
Well, I never gave mandates, and people have to make up their own, make their own decision. As far as I'm concerned, now some places had mandates, very strong mandates, largely Democrat governors and probably some Republicans, et cetera, et cetera. But there are Democrats that say, "Why aren't you talking about that?" It's one of they really believe strongly. One said, "You say," and this is very smart people. They said, you saved 100 million people worldwide. In 1917, it could have been as much as 100 million. It ended the First World War because all the soldiers were dying of this horrible disease of 1917. It actually ended the First World War. The soldiers were dying. They was on the lines, they're fighting, and they're dying of this horrible disease. They said, you might have saved 100 million people, 50 million people. Why aren't you talking about it? I said, I'm not talking about it. But what I did do is I got something done for that specific thing. I also got Regeneron and I got a lot of therapeutics done, which were great. I also got the robes and the leather and the rubber and all of the different things, the ventilators. we did a tremendous job, and it's never, they appreciated what I did with the economy. I got a lot of good marks on economy. I got a lot of good marks on a lot of things, rebuilding the military, getting rid of ISIS, the biggest tax cuts in history.
Supreme Court.
I never got, I think, the credit that I deserve on COVID.
Getting rid of ISIS. Yeah, we really don't give Trump enough credit, guys, for getting rid of ISIS. I know that on the left, like, we're really reticent to give Republicans credit, but he did, he wiped out ISIS, man. That's a big accomplishment. LOL. Obviously, I'm kidding.
Well, yes, there's now peace in the Middle East. Thank you. It's kind of like how people would unironically call his basically just like carte blanche permission for Israel to do more settlements and is a peace plan that he brokered between Israel and Palestine. It's like absolute insanity, revision of history. But the one thing he actually did do that was good was get that vaccine done, and he won't take credit for it. And he won't talk about it because he knows that his base is poison, and that he can't live and function in reality and still please them. But anyway, yeah. Just the nutcases over in the Republican Party across the board. And again, this is probably the only time you'll ever hear me announce even a single fucking positive word about Donald Trump. But in that exchange, he did come across as the more reasonable one, given how batshit Megyn Kelly came across. Of course, I think, gun to my head, I think Donald Trump writ large, the crazier man. In that exchange, Megyn Kelly, the crazier woman.
Isn't that crazy though? Like how far the Republican Party has got, or how much crazier they've gotten. Like in 2016, Megyn Kelly was viewed as like the reasonable critic of Donald Trump from the right, and now he looks reasonable in comparison to her fucking anti-vax conspiratorial nonsense. It's like, what? Why is Donald Trump making more sense in this clip? Why does he sound less unhinged than Megyn Kelly? Who again? It's like also I don't know. Do you really think this stuff matters do you think your average American cares about this as much as Megyn Kelly seems to? I really don't see much anecdotal experience in my personal life suggesting that people really care about the stuff that Megyn Kelly was talking about. It seems like a lot of
Jimmy Dore's entire audience, though. I mean, I think that there really is that. I think there's a lot of people who I think that I don't know if they're just a vocal minority.
That's what I mean, though. Online, I see a lot of it.
But like, how many Trump people are you hanging out with and kicking it with on a day-to-day basis? Like, you know what I mean?
That's true. That's true. I guess I just feel like the vaccine issue is kind of like done and gone. Like I don't really even hear that many Republicans.
But you're living in reality.
No, I know. But even like in the context of the 2024 GOP primary, the reason why Ron DeSantis, I think, is not doing as well as people expected him to is because he peaked way too soon. And that's because people cared about COVID a lot more when he was doing really well in the polls. And now it's kind of a fading issue. Like, obviously, a lot of Republicans still care about it, but I don't think it's going to be one of the top 5 issues that Republicans are going to the polls to vote based on in 2024. I don't think it's going to be one of the deciding issues between Trump and DeSantis. I don't think it's going to give DeSantis over the edge over Trump like a lot of people thought it might, given his rhetoric on vaccines. So I just feel like for Megyn Kelly to act like this is such a gotcha, I just think it's a little bit out of touch with where a lot of normal Americans are.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with a lot of that. I just think that there is probably about 10, 12, 13% of the Republican Party primary electorate where this is their number one issue. And I don't think that Donald Trump wants to give Ron DeSantis a clip where he can beat him over the head with it and give him like anything when he's already just clobbering the guy in the polling. You know what I mean? Should Donald Trump be giving him that power? No, I think that he should be going out there and saying, look at what I was able to accomplish. I was a leader when I never gave any mandates. I never blah, blah, or maybe he just doesn't have to talk about it at all. And that's fine. That seems to be the way that he's going with it. But yeah, I think Donald Trump is just very afraid of that fucking faction of the Republican Party, the vax base, because I mean, they're rabid, bro.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess what I'm just trying to figure out is like, does he actually need to be? Because I think that he's overestimating how powerful they are, and in his attempts to like capitulate to them and be mealy mouthed, it's actually just making him sound weak when he should just be putting them in their fucking place and being like, yeah, I'm proud of this, and no, I'm not going to give in to whatever Ron DeSantis wants me to say or however wants me to act in relationship to one of my biggest accomplishments. Like, I just think that makes him look weak. And I kind of think he's overestimating how powerful this faction of Republicans are in the first place, because clearly it's not, clearly his handling of the vaccine, the fact that he gave Dr. Fauci a medal, that didn't prevent him from being at where he is in the polls, from being the clear front runner. So I don't think Megyn Kelly and Ron DeSantis bringing it up now in September, I don't think that's going to all of a sudden take him down. So might as well just own it and stop being weak.